Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Yahweh, thank you for this Shabbat. Thank you that everyone is home or is home in time, home in Puerto Rico, home in Goodyear, and for everyone else like Bonnie and Kalea that are in Seattle, San Diego. Thank you for keeping them safe. Yahweh, we thank you for this time together with our families, those that we love, our brothers and sisters in Yahushua. We thank you for the word that's about to be brought by Christian and Nicole. Thank you for your Ruach speaking through them so that we can hear what we need to hear, any corrections that we may need in life, any wisdom so that we can be a blessing to others. Yahweh, we look forward to today's word. We look forward to spending time with you and spending time with those that we love and care about. Thank you for what this week has to bring. In Yahushua HaMashiach's name we pray, so shall it be.
So shall it be. Thank you for praying. That was wonderful. I want to start by praising Yahweh. Yahweh is so good. His grace and His mercy is always with us. He never fails. So this week has been a week full of so many blessings for many of us, and also a week full of challenges as well for many of us. The last two Shabbat, I have taught about diligence. One of the messages was about what happens when we are not diligent, and the other message was about being diligent, yielding our plans with Yahweh's plan. In today's message, I want to share about being diligent, creating a great reputation. This is something that I share a portion, like very short message, maybe, I don't know, like 3 months ago, maybe more. And it is something that Yahweh wants me to talk about again. And there is a very powerful story that is an example about being diligent, creating a great reputation. And it is the story of Shalom YHWH, which is Solomon, King Solomon. So we know his name's Shlomo, and also in the scriptures we can see that his name is Jedediah. But before he created a great reputation, the first thing he did was to recognize that he's not able to do anything on his own. He humbled himself and asked Yahweh for help. Let's read part of the story of Shlomo, and it is in the book of 1 Kings. If you guys want to go to that passage, it's in 1 Kings chapter 3, and we're going to start reading from verse 1. So it's 1 Kings chapter 3, starting on verse 1. And I'm planning on reading probably up to verse 14. So, okay, 1 Kings chapter 3, verse 1 says, starting in verse 1, Solomon made an alliance with Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, and married one of his daughters. He brought her to live in the city of David until he could finish building his palace and the temple of Yahweh, and the wall around the city. At that time, the people of Israel sacrificed their offerings at a local places of worship, for a temple honoring the name of Yahweh had not yet been built. Solomon loved Yahweh and followed all the decrees of his father David, except that Solomon too offered sacrifices and burned incense at the local places of worship. The most important of these places of worship was in Gibeon. So the king went there and sacrificed 1,000 burnt offerings That night Yahweh appeared to Solomon in a dream, and Yahweh said, "What do you want? Ask, and I will give it to you." Solomon replied, "You showed great and faithful love to your servant, my father David, because he was honest and true and faithful to you. And you have continued to show this great and faithful love to him today by giving him a son to sit on his throne. Now, O Yahweh, my Elohim, you have made me king instead of my father David, but I am like a little child who doesn't know his way around. And here I am in the midst of your own chosen people, a nation so great and numerous they cannot be counted. Give me an understanding heart so that I can govern your people well and know the difference between right and wrong. For who by himself is able to govern these great people of yours?" Yahweh was pleased that Solomon had asked for wisdom. So Yahweh replied, "Because you have asked for wisdom in governing my people with justice and have not asked for a long life or wealth or the death of your enemies, I will give you what you have asked for. I will give you a wise and understanding heart, such as no one else has had or ever will have. And I will also give you what you did not ask for, riches and fame. No other king in the world will be compared to you for the rest of your life. And if you follow me and obey my decrees and my commands as your father David did, I will give you a long life." When I read that, the only thing I can say is, wow. Like, this is just amazing. That is an extremely incredible and it's just amazing story. And it's an extremely wise request from Solomon. Like, this request that he had just proved that he was wise even before he asked for wisdom. Because for someone to ask something so wise, you need to have some wisdom already. So we can see that he already followed Yahweh and all of that. So he asked for wisdom, and even in Proverbs, he also wrote, obviously inspired by the Spirit of Yahweh, by Ruach, he wrote that accruing wisdom is the wisest thing you can do. And he was wiser than what we can even imagine. Even the way he spoke to Yahweh was so respectful. And it shows how much he loved Yahweh, how much he honors Yahweh, and how much he respects him. In this story, it talks about him sacrificing 1,000 burnt offerings. That is one proof of how much he was seeking to honor and glorify Yahweh. 1,000 burnt offerings. That is an extremely generous offering. And because of that, Yahweh was willing and able to honor Solomon as well. By giving him the opportunity to ask Yahweh whatever he wanted. He could ask him for whatever he was wanting. Once Yahweh opened up the opportunity for Shlomo to ask him whatever he wanted, Solomon didn't start by saying, "Give me one of these, give me one of those, give me 3 of this one in blue, 2 of that one in red." Like, no, that's not what he did. He started by complimenting and praising Yahweh. He started by praising and honoring and glorifying Yahweh by the things that he was saying about his great and faithful love, by saying, "You show great and faithful love to your servant, my father David, because he was honest and true and faithful to you." In this statement shows that David was also an amazing example and an amazing role model for his son Solomon, because Solomon knew that David was first a servant of Yahweh, and then he was his father. He didn't say, my father, your servant. He says, your servant, my father, David. So he acknowledged that David was first a servant of Yahweh, which shows that David was a great role model for Solomon. And that is one of the things that we all should be doing for our families, for our kids, for our parents, for everyone. We need to be a great example of what a child of Yahweh should behave and how we should live our lives. And then he said, and you have continued to show this great and faithful love to him today by giving him a son to sit on his throne. This shows that he understood that he was made king by the power and faithfulness of Yahweh, not because he deserved or earned the position by being the son of the king. So he was not confused like many of us are today. We like to think that we deserve everything or that we have earned everything. We are just fooling ourselves if that is what we think. So we can see that he humbled himself in front of Yahweh. He recognized his limitation and he honored Yahweh with an incredibly generous offering. And Yahweh honors him by allowing him to ask whatever he wanted from Yahweh. And he decided to ask for something that does not exalt himself or something that is not benefiting for him, even though at the end it was benefiting for him. But when he asked for it, it wasn't for himself. So he asked for wisdom to serve the people of Yahweh. And once again, he pleased Yahweh with his request. So he pleased Yahweh with the burnt offering. Yahweh opened up the opportunity for him to ask for whatever he wanted. Then when he asked for what he wanted, which was wisdom, that request also pleased Yahweh. So Yahweh once again decided to honor Solomon by giving him more than what he asked for. And that should give us a hint. The hint that we should receive from this, the revelation, is when we focus on ourselves, there is nothing we can do or think or say to please Yahweh. And he will not exalt us in glory at all. But when we focus in Yahweh and we focus in serving his people, he is pleased and he will honor and exalt us in glory as well, just like he did with Solomon. And that is how you start building a great reputation. It starts by humbling ourselves. After that is yielding our entire lives to Yahweh. It's not a portion of our life. It's completely yield our life with him and his plan for our lives. And when we do that, Yahweh will exalt us and make us a great leader and someone with a great reputation. A lot of people think that building a great reputation is something selfish, but it is not. It is not selfish. And it is not selfish only if you understand that the reputation that you are building is to exalt Yahweh. It's not to exalt yourself. It's to exalt the one who is exalting you. But when you want a great reputation for self-righteousness or to satisfy your ego, then you are in trouble. And Yahweh will not exalt you, and what he will do is he will humble you. And you can read the scriptures if you have any doubts about it. And if you don't believe the scriptures either, then you can go ahead and start living your life to satisfy yourself, satisfy your ego, and then see what happens. Let us know, because it will be a very interesting story that you're going to tell the people around you, because you will be humble like you have never experienced before. But going back to the story of Solomon and his great reputation, I want to also emphasize that Solomon had to do his part of the equation, right? He did the right things. He said the right things. He was walking in faith. But it was Yahweh who exalted him. We can see it clearly in the passage we just read, where it says, because you have asked for wisdom in governing my people with justice, and have not asked for a long life or wealth or for the death of your enemies, I will give you what you ask for, and I will give you a wise and understanding heart, such as no one else has had or ever will have. And I will also give you what you did not ask for, riches and fame. So no other king in all the world will be able to compare to you for the rest of your life. And if you follow if you follow me and obey my decrees and my commands, as your father David did, I will give you a long life. So can you imagine? This is something that when we read the scriptures, this is a way that I like to see it. Is like, can you imagine how much easier our lives could be if we stop trying to be successful? If there is a word that I detest, and probably Yahweh too, is the word trying. But what if we stop trying to be successful and we just actually become successful? Can you imagine how much easier it will be if we just stop trying to do everything on our own power, our own strength, and we actually do everything yielded to Yahweh? Can you imagine if instead of trying to force everything and force everyone to get what we want or what we think we need, we actually get what we want and what we need, and we get even more than that? Like a life where, like Solomon, he didn't ask for riches or fame or anything like that, or a long life, but because he didn't ask for it, that was given to him by Yahweh. But can you imagine, instead of trying to push everyone to get them to do what you want them to do, or so you can get what you want or what you need, like we can get more than what we think we want. Can you imagine living in such an abundance that no one can ever be compared to you for the rest of your life? That's what Yahweh told King Solomon. He said, no other king in the entire world will be able to compare themselves with you. Like, that is a level of abundance that we need to step in. We need to get into that place of that abundance where it's not that we want to compare ourselves with anyone, but Yahweh said no one will be able to compare themselves with you. Is that you are in such a different level that no one can ever have the ability to even think of comparing themselves to you. Can you also imagine a life where your reputation is so great that people have to go to you to be able to see if what they have heard is true? Like, imagine people having to come to you to experience for themselves what they have heard about you. Like, that is just amazing. And even better than that, can you imagine having such a great reputation, and when people come to you to see if it is true, all the things they have heard, they leave the meeting or they leave from your presence so overwhelmed because what you delivered to them, the value that you give them in person, is so much greater than your reputation. And that is exactly what happened to Solomon, and we can read that too. It's also in 1 Kings. Now it's in chapter 10. If you want to go there, 1 Kings chapter 10. starting from verse 1 up to, we're going to read until verse 10. It says, when the Queen of Sheba heard of Solomon's fame, which brought honor to the name of Yahweh, she came to test him with hard questions. She arrived in Jerusalem with a large group of attendants and a great caravan of camels loaded with spices, large quantities of gold, and precious jewels. When she met with Solomon, she talked with him about everything she had on her mind. Solomon had answers for all her questions. Nothing was too hard for the king to explain to her. When the Queen of Sheba realized how very wise Solomon was, and when she saw the palace he had built, she was overwhelmed. She was so overwhelmed. She was also amazed at the food on his table, the organization of his officials and their splendid clothing, the cup-bearers, and the burnt offering Solomon made at the temple of Yahweh. She exclaimed to the king, everything I heard in my country about your achievements and wisdom is true. I didn't believe what was said until I arrived here and saw it with my own eyes. In fact, I had not heard the half of it. Your wisdom and prosperity are far beyond what I was told. How joyful your people must be. What a privilege for your officials to stand here day after day, listening to your wisdom. Praise Yahweh your Elohim, who delights in you, and he has placed you on the throne of Israel. Because of Yahweh's eternal love for Israel, he has made you king so you can rule with justice and righteousness. She gave the king a gift of 9,000 pounds of gold, great quantities of spices, and precious jewels. Never before had there been spices as fine as those the Queen of Sheba gave to King Solomon. When I read this story, it doesn't matter how many times I read this story, it always gives me chills. Like, this is a very encouraging story for me. Like, when I read it, it's very encouraging, it's very motivating, and it just gives a kind of passion just thinking. I'm gonna cover this thing because I wanna kind of like break it down a little by little. The first thing I want to point out is, when you create a great reputation, a lot of people, especially those who are in the same field as you are, which will be considered kind of like your colleagues, will do their best to put you to the test, to make you fail, and to prove that there is nothing special in you. That is why it is very important to read the scriptures day and night. It is very important to meditate on the scriptures day and night. When I say day and night, it doesn't mean a portion of the morning and a portion of the... No, what I mean is the whole day. And speak the word of Yahweh day and night. And we need to stop wasting our time watching Netflix or Hulu or Amazon Prime or whatever, or whatever we are watching, or scrolling on social media. If that is all we are doing, I want to be very honest that there is nothing about us that is impressive. If all we do is watch Netflix or Hulu, or we are just in social media all day, there is nothing impressive about ourselves. If that is all we do, we are just like millions of people in the world. That is what almost everyone does. What can we offer? You will never have anything to contribute. If that's all we do, we have nothing to contribute that is beneficial for the people that we are meant to serve. And that is the reason why so many people are scared of stepping into their purpose. the purpose that Yahweh has for their lives, because they are scared of confrontation and hard questions from people. It is better to have hard questions with no answers than to have answers that cannot be questioned. If you have answers, if we have answers that cannot be questioned, it cannot be questioned, that means that we don't even know why we believe what we believe. If we cannot be questioned about the answers that we think we have, that means that our faith is weak and we don't even have a true conviction. Can you imagine if Solomon would have said to the Queen of Sheba, like, just come later, because I'm not prepared to answer your questions? Like, can you imagine that instead of saying that nothing was too hard for the king to explain, if the scriptures would have said everything was too hard for the king to explain, and it was so bad that the Queen of Sheba decided to ask for a refund for all the gifts, all the gold that she brought, and she decided to leave because she was disappointed. That would have been so horrible in many ways. One is because the reputation of Solomon would have been really affected, and also with his reputation, it also would affect the great name of Yahweh, because everyone knew that he was placed there by Yahweh. So when we proclaim to everyone that we are sons and daughters of Yahweh, but we don't have the words to explain to people what we believe, that does not only affect us and our reputation, but it affects Yahweh's great name, because the representation that we are bringing to the world about who Yahweh is horrible. But she was overwhelmed. The Queen of Sheba was overwhelmed with the great wisdom of Solomon, and also with everything that surrounded him. It says that she was also amazed. One, she was amazed with the palace that he has built. She was amazed with the food on his table, the organization of the officials, and the splendid clothing that they were wearing, the cupbearers, and the burnt offerings that Solomon made at the temple of Yahweh. So everything around him was amazing. If people spend time with you, this is something that everyone should think about. If people spend time with you and they are not interested or amazed by how good your place is, or how good your food, the food that you consume is, or how nice your clothing is, or how you praise Yahweh throughout the day, and how well off the people around you are because they are with you. If people, when they spend time with you, they cannot think like that, if they cannot think that the things that you are eating are so amazing, like, you are different. What you eat is different. What you do is different. The way you praise Yahweh is different. Your place looks so different to everywhere else that I go. There is a peace that is not found anywhere else. Like, if something like that doesn't happen when people spend time with you, something is wrong. But then he says that the Queen of Sheba exclaimed to the king, "Everything I heard in my country about your achievements and wisdom is true. I didn't believe what was said until I arrived here and saw it with my own eyes. In fact, I had not heard the half of it. Your wisdom and prosperity are far beyond what I was told." And that is what having a great reputation and being a person that delivers way beyond of what your reputation is looks like. That is it. Like when someone can say something like that, that is it. You have a great reputation, but you deliver so much more than what your reputation is. If having a great reputation is very important, being able to execute and deliver a lot more value than what has been said about you is a lot more important. So I'm gonna say that one more time. If having a great reputation is important, and we can see it throughout the scriptures, being able to execute and deliver a lot more value than what has been said about you is a lot more important. Creating a great reputation and not being able to deliver or execute is the recipe for failure. If there is something I learned when I was a professional baseball player, is that when you are an elite athlete or elite in general in what you do, whatever you do, if you are elite, you will spend more than 80% of your time studying, training, preparing, practicing, learning, equipping yourself, and then you will spend a very little time in the actual game. But when you spend so much time in the development process and in the practicing process, when the game comes, you just need to trust that all the hard work that you put in or that you did in the dark, where no one is able to look at you, when you are on yourself alone, spending time with Yahweh, all the hard work that you put in will bring forth the good fruits in the light, where everyone is looking at you. But if the preparation process is mediocre, is horrible, if you don't spend time in that preparation process with Yahweh 100%, you need to be ready for mediocre results. And I'm gonna say that one more time. When you are an elite athlete or an elite person in your field, which in this case I want to focus 100% in our calling, we need to spend so much time in the development process. I realize that it's about 80% of our time in that development process, the practicing process. And when the game comes, the actual things that we are called to do, you just need to trust that Yahweh will bring forth the good fruit because of all the hard work that you put in the dark, where no one was able to see you. He will exalt you in front of everyone. The fruits will be brought forth in the light, where everyone is looking. But if the preparation process is mediocre, the results are going to also be mediocre. If we are sons and daughters of the sovereign King of the universe, we should see ourselves as the elite of the world, where we are always preparing and consuming the word of Yahweh, being equipped by His Ruach. So when it's time to execute and deploy into the purpose that Yahweh has for our lives, we don't get mediocre results, but we get results that are pleasing to Yahweh and beneficial for His people. Going back to the story of Solomon, the Queen of Sheba, after that part that I just read earlier, said, "How joyful your people must be. What a privilege for your officials to stand here day after day listening to your wisdom." Ask to yourself, can people say something like that about you? Can people say something like that? Like, what a privilege for those around you to be next to you day after day, listening to your wisdom. Can people say that about you? Or people may say something more like, how sad must be for those around you, having to listen to you complaining day in and day out, day after day, all day long, complaining and listening to your gossip all day long. Will they say something like that? Will they say something like, what a curse it is for those around you to be around you? Which of those statements will people say if they were to spend some time with you? Will they say, what a blessing for the people around you, what a privilege for them to spend time with you day after day, listening to your wisdom? The people around you must be joyful and so blessed? Or they will be saying like, wow, you are the person that ruins everyone's day. Just think about that and be honest with yourself. Then the Queen of Sheba said, praise Yahweh your Elohim, who delights in you and has placed you on the throne of Israel. Because of Yahweh's eternal love for Israel, he has made you king so you can rule with justice and righteousness. That is what I want everyone to say when they spend time with all of us, with every single one of us. That's what I want to hear people saying. I want the people to start praising Yahweh, our Elohim, for the experience they have with us. That is what a great representation of Yahweh looks like. People living, when they live praising Yahweh. She said, praise Yahweh, your Elohim. So she's probably not even a believer of Yahweh, because she didn't refer to him as my Elohim. She didn't say, praise Yahweh, our Elohim. No, she said, praise Yahweh, your Elohim. But her experience with Solomon made her praise Yahweh. That is very powerful because of all the value that Solomon offered to her. The great name of Yahweh was proclaimed and exalted, not just by Solomon, but by a person that probably doesn't even believe in Yahweh. But after experiencing what she experienced there, that is plenty of proof for her to probably start believing in Yahweh. Because why would someone start saying praise to Yahweh if it's not because something is so compelling, something is so persuasive about what I have experienced here, that I just have to start praising Yahweh? That is what we need to aim for. We need to aim for like that our lifestyle makes people praise Yahweh when they spend time with us. And then the scripture says that she gave the king a gift of 9,000 pounds of gold, great quantities of spices, and precious jewels. Never before have there been spices as fine as those the Queen of Sheba gave to the king Solomon. Let me explain something very quickly. I want to explain what we just read. It says that the Queen of Sheba paid King Solomon for his coaching session or for his services, which obviously when you read the entire story, you know that he had coaching sessions with the other kings around the world. But the Queen of Sheba paid for her session $268,553,197 with 44 cents in today's money. So she paid almost $300 million in today's money, just in gold, plus all the things that she used to pay him that were not able to be measured in today's economy, because it doesn't give us any specific details besides that it was a great quantity of spices and precious jewelry. And obviously that there hasn't been any spices as fine as those. But being diligent, creating a great reputation, and yielding our lives to Yahweh is and His plan for our lives is the only real way to build true generational wealth, prosperity, to find fulfillment, and to be successful. That's the only way of doing it. One thing that I mentioned, I think it was last Shabbat, is that when you bring so much value to people and everything you do makes people's lives better, they don't gonna think about like if they should pay you or not, or they just gonna look for someone else. If you deliver and you execute in what you say that you will execute, and they receive the results that you say they will receive, people just gonna throw the money at you. And I'm not saying this only because for us, for our own benefit, but these are the things that Yahweh will put us in that position of receiving that amount, like things that are outrageously like outside of what we can ever think, that someone will pay King Solomon almost $300 million just in gold because of his wisdom, because of the experience that they had during the time that they were there. These are examples in the scriptures for us to receive. These are not there for us to just be impressed. These are there for us to see what is possible for us today. If we believe that it's possible for us, it is possible for us. But if you believe that it is not possible for us, then it won't. So if you believe that it is true for your life, or if you believe that it is not true for your life, you are right both ways. So it's all about what you believe. It's all about your faith. If you put your faith in Yahweh, if you believe right, your life will start to change. Your life will start to you're going to start walking in alignment to His scriptures, to His principles, and all His principles always work. They never stop working, doesn't matter who you are. So another beautiful thing about what we just read in this passage is that Solomon didn't have to try anything. He didn't have to try to convince the Queen of Sheba to pay him. She was more than willing to pay him. His wise words and actions were persuasive. And obviously, he had the favor of Yahweh. So in this case, a lot of time we think that wisdom is just the things that we say. But we can see that the Queen of Sheba was able to see his wisdom. It wasn't only what she heard from him. She heard things about him, then she went there to make sure that it was true. So she talked to him for a while. So she saw that his wisdom, she was able to hear his wisdom when they were talking. But then it says that she was impressed with everything around him, even his officials. So the wisdom is not something that is only what we say, is how we present ourselves all the time, how we behave, how the people around us look like. Because the wisdom that we have, if those around us are willing to receive, they will receive great wisdom and they will also be transformed. Because obviously what we are bringing to the world is Yahweh all the time. We are here to serve the people that He put us here to serve. Just like Solomon prayed for wisdom to serve those people that he was put in place to serve, that's what we should pray for all the time. We pray for wisdom so we can serve the people that we are here to serve, in a manner that is pleasing to Yahweh. So I want to close this message by praying really quick. Yahweh, Heavenly Father, we thank you. We thank you for this message. Thank you for this Shabbat. We want to say Shabbat Shalom to you, Father. Thank you for revealing your truth. Thank you for inspiring us with this story of Solomon. We pray that we can receive all the revelation that you have for us from this story, and that we are able to apply everything in our daily life so we can receive all the benefits that there is to receive from this amazing story that you put in the scriptures for us, to be able to receive knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. We ask you, Father, to help us. We ask you for wisdom, just like King Solomon asked you for wisdom to serve your people. We ask you today, in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach, to pour your wisdom in us. Grant us wisdom, Father. Your word says that if we lack wisdom and we want wisdom, to just ask you and you will give generously to us. We ask you today, Father, to give generous wisdom generously to us. We receive everything that you have for us. Help us to serve the people that you put us here to serve in the manner that is pleasing to you and is for a great benefit for everyone. Help us to discover our purpose. Help us to prepare for our purpose. Help us to deploy in our purpose, and also help us to fulfill our purpose. We understand that no one is able to fulfill our purpose in our lives. For our lives, we declare that you help us to walk in alignment to your principles, so we can become the person that you want us to become, so we can do the things that you want us to do, so we can also have all the things that you want us to have. We declare these things in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach. So shall it be.
So shall it be.